Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting stuff to dig into today. You've sent us some phrases that are commonly used in Chinese workplaces, and you want to find more natural ways to say them in English. We're going to unpack these and explore the nuances, kind of help you navigate the sometimes tricky waters of workplace English,
Yeah,
with more confidence and all that.
absolutely. I think what's fascinating here is we're not just looking at the literal translations. We're going to be delving into the subtle implications behind these phrases too. I think it's going to be a pretty cool glimpse into how cultural differences can play out in the way we communicate.
So to kick things off, the first phrase we have is, you seem to lose the connection. Which, I mean, hey, it happens, right? Especially in the age of Zoom meetings and all. But it does sound a bit blunt. I know, what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely very direct. You're directly pointing out a technical difficulty. And, in English, we usually try to be a little more indirect and polite, especially in a professional setting.
So how could we rephrase that to sound smoother?
Well, instead of putting the blame on the individual, you could say something like, we lost you for a second there. And that, kind of shifts the focus from the person to the connection itself, almost makes it seem like a shared experience, right?
Right, right. Not like it's anyone's fault.
Exactly. You could even phrase it as a question, like, did we lose name? That's even more indirect, and it, shows concern for the person who might be having the technical issue.
That's good. It feels more collaborative that way, like everyone's in it together.
Exactly. Now, this next one, you didn't open your voice. This is like a classic example of a literal translation that just sounds, well, kind of unnatural to native English speakers.
Yeah, it's a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, exactly. The natural way to say this is just, you're on mute.
Simple and to the point.
Exactly. All right, so how about this one? Sorry, I want to say something. Now, grammatically, it's correct, but it just feels a bit abrupt, especially if you're interrupting someone.
Right. It needs some politeness, yeah.
Exactly. So a better way to say this would be something like, could I interject here? It's still direct, but using could makes it a request rather than just an announcement.
And using the word interject is good too, right? It shows you have a good vocabulary.
Definitely. And it shows that you're being mindful of the flow of the conversation, right?
Mm.
You're asking permission to contribute your thoughts. So it's respectful.
Okay, this next phrase. Your voice disappeared. I didn't hear you clearly. It's a little bit repetitive, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a bit wordy. How about this? Your voice was breaking up, and I don't think I heard you clearly.
That's much better. It's smoother. You've acknowledged the issue and asked for clarification without, repeating yourself.
All right, so this one's interesting. You didn't say anything. Do you want to add any words? It's not grammatically incorrect, but it can be a bit too direct.
Yeah, almost like you're calling someone out for being quiet.
Right. And we want to create a more, inclusive environment where everyone feels comfortable to speak up.
So how can we encourage participation without making anyone feel, put on the spot?
Instead of saying that, you could try, you've been very quiet. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
That's nice. Quiet feels much softer than you didn't say anything.
Yeah. It's like a gentle observation rather than an accusation.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Can we make a phone call quickly?
Hmm.
Understandable, but it's missing a bit of polish, right?
Yeah, I agree. A more refined way to say this would be, would you like to jump on a quick call?
Ooh, jump on a quick call.
I like that.
It's a bit more dynamic, right?
It is.
Okay, here's another one about apologies. Sorry for letting you wait for me so long. It gets the point across, but I think we can make it more concise.
Yeah. How about sorry to have kept you waiting?
Perfect. It's shorter, to the point.
And you're not dwelling on how long the wait was.
Okay, next up. There should be 6 people of us in the meeting, but 2 people didn't come. Now, this is grammatically correct, but it sounds a little clunky, don't you think?
A little too literal, maybe. Yeah. A more natural way to say this would be, I believe there should be 6 of us in total, so we have 2 missing.
So we're not explicitly saying people, but it's implied.
Exactly. It's a subtle difference, but it makes the sentence flow better. Okay, what about this? What is the schedule for today's meeting?
It's a bit basic, isn't it?
Yeah, it lacks that professional touch. A more sophisticated way to ask this would be, what's on the agenda for today?
Oh, using agenda immediately makes it sound more, well, professional, like you know the lingo.
Exactly. Now on to the next phrase. Could you help write the meeting notes? Again, this is totally understandable, but there's a more standard term that's used in professional settings.
You mean meeting minutes?
Yes, meeting minutes is the official record of a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So using that term shows you understand the formality of it all.
Okay, so we have, please let me know the progress of the project. It gets the job done, but maybe it's a little too direct. I don't know.
It does feel a bit transactional. And sometimes you want to encourage more of an ongoing conversation about the project. So a more idiomatic and friendly way to say this would be, please keep me in the loop.
Ah, keep me in the loop. That's great.
It implies you want to stay updated and involved, right? Not just get a one-time report.
Exactly. Okay, now for this phrase. We can talk about this question later. I feel like it's kind of brushing the question aside, you know?
Right. It can sound a little dismissive, like you're avoiding the question. A better approach would be to say, we can come back to this question in a moment. It acknowledges the question, and it suggests that you have a plan to address it, just not right this second.
It's more respectful, for sure. And more organized, too, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not just putting it off indefinitely.
Right. Okay, how about this one? The new plan may change the situation. It's kind of bland, isn't it?
It's a bit too neutral.
Yeah.
Like you're not really expressing any belief in the plan's potential.
To give it a bit more punch, you could say, the new plan may save the day.
Now that's what I'm talking about. Save the day. It's like the plan's a hero. It really highlights the positive impact the plan could have.
It's a much more confident statement, and it can be, inspiring for a team to hear.
All right. It's your turn to say something. It's a little too casual for a professional setting, don't you think?
Yeah. To create a more formal and, impactful tone, you could use the phrase, the floor is yours.
Ooh, the floor is yours. I like it. Like you're giving someone a stage.
Right. It gives the speaker a sense of authority, and it shows that their thoughts and opinions are valued.
Okay, so now we have, sorry for not replying you on time. A couple of things we can tweak here.
First off, the grammar. Remember, it's reply to, not reply you.
Right. Good catch.
And sorry is fine, but my apologies for the delayed response sounds a bit more professional, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And you're not directly saying on time,
Yeah.
which can sometimes sound a bit, I don't know, accusatory, even if you don't mean it that way.
Yeah. It's more subtle. So what about this statement? If a team work together, they can do things better. It's true, obviously, but it feels kind of obvious.
It's like saying water is wet.
Exactly. To make this statement more memorable, we can use some more sophisticated language. How about, teamwork is the premise to rise to the occasion.
Wow. Premise to rise to the occasion. Okay, now that's impressive. You just, leveled up the vocabulary there.
And it emphasizes that teamwork isn't just about doing things better. It's about, having the foundation to overcome challenges and achieve great things.
All right, this next phrase is, well, it's a little bit negative. If the new plan is not okay, we just give up.
Way too defeatist. In any workplace, you want to project a can-do attitude. So how about this? We'll just move on, even if the new plan is not accepted.
Yeah, that's much better. It shows you're adaptable and solution-oriented.
All right, let's look at this one. We can find a way not too bad or too good. It's kind of awkward, and it sounds like you're, aiming for mediocrity, right?
Yeah, definitely not inspiring.
Yeah. The idiom, we can find a happy medium, is a much clearer and more concise way to express the idea of compromise.
Happy medium.
Hmm.
Much better. It implies you're finding a solution that works for everyone.
Exactly. All right, next phrase. Do you want to do the task? Very direct, a bit impersonal.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just assigning a chore. You're not really, engaging with the person or making them feel valued.
To make it more engaging and respectful, you could say, I want to ask if you'd be happy to take over the reins.
Take over the reins. Now, that is a great way to delegate a task. It shows trust, and it gives the person a sense of ownership over the project.
Okay, so someone asks you to do a task, and you respond with, yes, I do. It's grammatically correct, but it needs some energy.
It sounds like you're just going through the motions.
Exactly. To inject some enthusiasm, you could say, yes, I am more than happy to.
That's the spirit. You sound much more eager and willing to contribute.
All right, so let's look at this phrase. You can do it after practicing it many times. True, but a bit wordy.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a saying that perfectly captures this sentiment.
Practice makes perfect. There's a reason it's a classic. It's concise, it's memorable, and it really drives home the point about dedication and improvement.
It's universally understood,
Okay, let's talk about this phrase. My job makes me feel full. Now, full is usually used to describe, like when you've eaten a big meal. It doesn't quite work for describing job satisfaction.
Right. It doesn't capture that deeper sense of, like, purpose and fulfillment you get from meaningful work.
Exactly. A better way to say this would be, my job brings me a sense of fulfillment.
Yes. Fulfillment is the perfect word. It really captures that feeling of, like, finding meaning in your work.
Okay, last phrase for today. We can have a try first. It's understandable, but there's a much more vivid and idiomatic way to express this idea of like cautious exploration.
What about we can test the waters first?
Exactly. It paints a picture in the listener's mind, right?
Yeah.
It's much more evocative. It really does. It captures that feeling of sort of cautiously approaching a new situation. It's like, dipping your toes in the water before you jump in.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to the next phrase. It's, what is the progress of the project? I mean, yeah, it gets the message across, but I feel like there's probably a smoother way to ask for an update, especially if I'm not just looking for a, one-time report.
Right. Please let me know the progress of the project. It can sound, well, a bit transactional. Like you're not encouraging an open dialogue. A really great alternative is please keep me in the loop.
Yeah.
It's informal, but still professional.
Yeah.
And it suggests that you're looking for, ongoing communication.
Yeah, keep me in the loop. It's like saying, hey, I want to be part of the conversation as things develop, not just get like a detached update or something.
Precisely. It creates that sense of collaboration and, ensures that you're not just getting information, but also the context behind it.
Speaking of navigating conversations, how about this phrase? We can talk about this question later. I mean, sometimes you do need to postpone a discussion, but this just sounds, I don't know, a bit dismissive, like you're brushing the question aside and not really planning to come back to it.
I agree. It lacks structure. And the person asking the question might feel like, they're not being heard. A much better way to say this is, we can come back to this question in a moment. So you're acknowledging the question and you're suggesting that, there's a more appropriate time to address it.
Right. It's like, we hear you, we'll get to it, just not right this second.
Exactly. It's about managing expectations and, respecting the flow of the conversation. Okay, how about this one? The new plan may change the situation. It's kind of, I don't know, it lacks a certain energy, don't you think?
A bit too passive, like you're stating a fact rather than, expressing confidence in the plan's potential.
Right, it needs more impact. To make it more exciting and to, highlight the positive change the plan could bring, you could say, the new plan may save the day.
Oh, I like that. Save the day. Like the new plan is a
Yeah,
superhero.
it is. It injects this sense of heroism and possibility into the statement.
Okay, now we have, it's your turn to say something. It's just, I don't know, a bit too casual for a professional setting.
Yeah, it's very classroom-like.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really empower people to contribute their ideas.
A much more elegant and professional way to say this is, the floor is yours.
The floor is yours. That's perfect. It gives the speaker a sense of, authority. It makes them feel like their thoughts and perspectives are valued.
Exactly. Okay, so let's look at this apology. Sorry for not replying you on time.
Well, first off, the grammar needs a little work. It should be reply to, not reply you.
Good point.
And, sorry is fine, but my apologies for the delayed response just sounds, I don't know, a bit more polished.
It does. It adds a touch of formality.
And you're not directly saying on time, which, again, can sometimes come across as a little bit accusatory.
Right. Okay, let's talk teamwork. If a team work together, they can do things better.
Well, yeah, of course. It's true, but it's a bit obvious, isn't it?
It is. It's like we need something with a bit more oomph, right?
Yeah, it needs to be more impactful.
Exactly. So how about this? Teamwork is the premise to rise to the occasion.
Teamwork is the premise to rise to the occasion. Okay, I see what you did there. You're bringing in some more sophisticated vocabulary with, like, premise, and you've got the idiom rise to the occasion.
Exactly. And the whole phrase, it emphasizes that teamwork isn't just about, doing things better. It's about having the foundation to overcome challenges and achieve, really great things.
Okay, here's another phrase. It's a bit, well, it's pretty negative. If the new plan is not okay, we just give up.
Oh, that's so defeatist. It really sends the wrong message.
Yeah, it's like giving up before you even start.
Exactly. So instead of that, we could say, we'll just move on even if the new plan is not accepted.
Yeah.
It shows that you're, flexible and resilient.
Right. You're not going to let a setback stop you. You're just going to find another way.
Exactly. Okay, how about this one? We can find a way not too bad or too good. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, and it makes it sound like you're settling for something mediocre.
Right. There's a great idiom that perfectly captures this idea of like compromise. We can find a happy medium.
Happy medium. Much better. It's clear, concise, and it doesn't make it sound like you're aiming low.
Now let's talk about delegating tasks. So someone says, "Do you want to do the task?"
It's just so blunt and impersonal.
It is. It doesn't make the person feel valued.
I think you're just handing them a chore, not an opportunity.
Exactly. We can make this much more engaging. So instead of that, you could say, "I want to ask if you'd be happy to take over the reins."
Ooh, take over the reins. That's so much better. It shows trust and like you're giving the person real responsibility.
Exactly. It's empowering. Okay, so let's say someone asks you to do something and you say, "Yes, I do."
Well, it's not wrong, but it sounds a bit flat.
It does, doesn't it? It needs some energy. How about this? "Yes, I am more than happy to."
There we go.
Yeah,
Now you sound like you're genuinely excited to take on the task.
exactly. That kind of enthusiasm can really, make a difference in a team environment. All right, this next phrase. You can do it after practicing it many times.
It's true, but it's a bit long-winded, don't you think?
Yeah. I think we all know a saying that perfectly sums this up.
Practice makes perfect. Right.
Exactly. And, there's a reason why that saying has stood the test of time. It's concise, it's memorable, and it really gets across the importance of, persistence and dedication.
Okay, let's talk about this phrase. My job makes me feel full.
Mm,
Now, we usually use full when we're talking about food. It doesn't really work when you're talking about job satisfaction.
right. Because it's not just about feeling, satisfied. It's about finding meaning in your work.
Yeah, it's a much deeper feeling.
Exactly. So a better way to say this would be, my job brings me a sense of fulfillment.
Yes, fulfillment. It's like you're achieving something meaningful.
Yeah.
It's not just about clocking in and clocking out.
And our final phrase for today, we can have a try first. It's understandable, but it's a bit basic, don't you think?
Yeah, it lacks that, colorful language that can really make a phrase stand out.
Exactly. So a much better way to say this is we can test the waters first.
Ah, test the waters.
Hmm.
It's like you're being cautious, but also open to exploring something new.
Exactly, exactly. It's
Yeah.
a great way to, kind of dip your toes in before you dive in head first.
Okay, so you can do it after practicing it many times. It's true, of course, but there's got to be a more concise way to say that.
Oh, yeah. There's a saying that captures this perfectly.
Practice makes perfect.
Exactly. It's classic for a reason.
It really does get the point across, doesn't it?
It does, and it's so memorable.
Okay, let's talk about this phrase. My job makes me feel full. Now, we usually use full to talk about, when you've eaten a lot of food. It doesn't quite work when we're talking about, job satisfaction.
Right. It's a different kind of full, right?
Exactly. It's not just about being content or whatever. It's about feeling like your work has meaning, like you're actually making a difference.
Yeah, it's a much deeper feeling.
So to express that, you could say, my job brings me a sense of fulfillment.
Fulfillment.
Yeah.
That's the perfect word. It really gets across that sense of, finding purpose in your work.
And our final phrase for today is, we can have a try first, which it's understandable, but it's not very exciting, is it?
It's not. It's a bit basic.
So how can we spice things up a bit?
How about this? We can test the waters first.
Ah, test the waters. That's much better. It's like, you're dipping your toes in before you jump in the pool.
Exactly. It's more vivid and, it really captures that sense of cautious exploration.
Well, this has been such a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about how to really fine-tune my communication skills.
Me too. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that, language is so powerful. Even small changes in the way we phrase things can make a huge difference in how we come across, especially in professional setting.
Absolutely. So keep practicing, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep having fun with language. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. Until next time.